Hello, everyone. I'm Ann Ridelfs, the gardener of the soul, and I'm here with Thane Westerman. Thane, you want to tell us a few things about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Thane Westerman, and I am a coach for six figure or higher to get their $1 million day. And and I also have a working on a world project, and also with Anne, the soul listening, um, which is part of their kind of everything's. The world project would have encompass everything. So, and I'm just here today to just dive into some information that I think will be really helpful for all of us.
And a reminder that when we help ourselves and our communities, we are helping the world.
I love that.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things I try to do is be attentive to who needs my information wherever I go and allow that to happen and not allow my busyness or my schedule to interfere with that human connection that we all need to evolve.
Mm-hmm. In person, not just on Zoom, huh?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
That's beautiful.
One of the things that has come to mind over the past couple of weeks, Thane, is a lot of people are commenting in the health freedom movement about how slowly things are progressing. They want more speed. And it certainly makes sense to me because people are being harmed. People are getting sick, permanent disabilities, even though I believe everything is correctable if we're willing to hear our soul and follow the steps. But people are dying too. So
Mm-hmm.
I see the need for urgency, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm aware that our population has a lot of people, leaders included, that are stuck at young stages of development. And people stuck at young stages can see change as threat.
Mm-hmm.
They react to it and they can react violently, causing even more hurting others, maiming and killing. So, when it comes to working with people stuck at the youngest stages, baby steps are required to minimize that backlash that's always a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Can you kind of go into what you mean when you say young, how people get stuck at young stages?
Sure. First of all, I believe that the whole continuum of human development is in each one of us, meaning we all have an infant, 2-year-old, preschooler, school-age child, adolescent, and man and woman within every single one of us. It doesn't matter the gender, we all have both a mature man and woman inside us. But when we've had trauma, we get stuck at a particular developmental age. Overwhelming trauma that's never treated. Usually, our worst traumas we put in the unconscious mind. So we can't treat them. We don't even know about them. And what shows up is we get stuck in our development. And so we're behaving more like a young person than we are a mature adult. And I see this a lot in our leadership. Like, for example, how you know an infant is because they don't move on serious problems. They don't even hear them. I mean, talk to a baby and tell them about some serious problems going on in the country. And what does the baby do? He
Mm-hmm.
sits there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when our leaders are told about serious problems, like shots that are hurting a huge number of people, and they don't do anything, that is an infant response.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yes, and that's why we need baby steps because these infant leaders can be very violent at times.
Mm-hmm.
They are threatened too much. And what they know is trauma. Trauma is what stuck them at such a young age. So, that is what they're liable to recreate. And if they're in leadership, they can recreate their trauma on a grand scale.
Wow. Yeah. That's
So, you have a
amazing.
2-year-old leader, they're more apt to oppose whatever you're expressing something useful as far as information they may not have. And they say, oh, no, no, no. there's a study, blah, blah, blah. And they just automatically oppose without really taking in what is being said. Let me look at the information you have that is showing your why your position is valid. They automatically oppose. Walk away.
Mm, mm-hmm.
A lot of those type leaders as well. And again, I'm not saying that the whole of the person is stuck, but in that moment when they are consistently reacting that way in that area, they're stuck as an infant or 2 year old. And they need help if they're going to get out of that stuck place.
Mm,
They need people to notice where they're coming from, notice this is not mature adult behavior. And we should hopefully someday give people that are aspiring to leadership testing to see where they are in the various stages and
mm.
various aspects of life. So we wouldn't put in place authorities that are stuck at such young ages.
Or maybe even help them to relieve that trauma, right?
Yes.
In that particular area.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great thing for all of us to do.
Yes. And that's why it's so important for me to get this information out so more people know. Because when I give people the information, they'll say, oh, my family member, this person in our community, they see it. So the information is vital for these changes to take place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I suppose it could make a big difference in a family, in a person's livelihood, whatever, wherever they're, and they don't see that they're stuck or in those stages would be really helpful. And probably most all of us have some form of trauma, wouldn't you think?
Yes,
Growing
that's my experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some worse than others, but usually there's something happened that was traumatic or mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the most people know the big T traumas as far as the witnessing a murder or something extreme, but there are also the little T traumas that are just the day to day not being treated as a human being. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, our protocol says we have to do this and that, even though you don't want it, or even though your religious beliefs are different, or your medical history would say that that's really not useful for you, but it's our protocol, that's what we follow. So we're following something mechanical rather than a human being. The
Mm-hmm.
unique needs of every person.
Mm-hmm.
This is one way we can all contribute to a better world is being attentive to the unique needs of every person we're with and being fluid enough to meet those developmental needs.
Mm. Yeah, that'd be an interesting other topic too, is how to recognize the needs of and where that kind of plays out.
Mhm.
Could help people, you know.
And I can tell you three ways really quickly of how unresolved trauma waves a flag for us all. The first one is when people are stuck in a behavior pattern. If you always, when you say A, I always respond with B, that's automatic. Why am I not saying different things? Well, I'm stuck there for some reason. If you do C and I always do D in response, then again, that's showing automatic mechanical programming rather than spontaneity of being true to who you are in the moment, what needs to be said and done. So, fight, flight, or freeze are, as we know, normal animal responses to threat. If we are frozen in any way, meaning predictable,
Mm,
then there's been a threat there. And that threat has to be resolved if we're to have the freedom to move true to ourselves and true to what the other person needs from us. So
mm-hmm.
that's the first thing. And the second thing is people can become excessive. meaning that excessive emotion is a common example. That, to give you a close to home example, my mom doesn't like the locks on her doors. She says they're ugly, they're horrible. She hates them. My response is hating locks on a door? Really? Hatred? That's awful strong. Well, we have a traumatic history, as you know, which my mother has largely forgotten. And all those strong feelings, where are they going? Somewhere totally safe that can't hurt her back.
Mm,
Locks on the doors. And we do that the same way with safe people. And we see this all the time with the news is people that are really trying to help society in some way are maligned and made to look terrible when people find them safe. So they're putting all their unresolved stuff on that person who really is trying to do good things. So again, if we had this information, we would be able to see as a society where it's coming from rather than assuming people are always coming from a human, mature place.
hmm
And the third thing would be people who have no reaction, just minimal reaction, meaning all hell may be breaking loose and they are just sitting there again like an infant,
hmm
not not understanding and feeling the enormity of what's going on and doing something about it. So we need those healthy human reactions, not only to mobilize ourselves, but to mobilize others.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome to know that.
And don't we all know people who are stuck in predictable behavior? We know exactly what they're going to say, what they're going to do. And people
hmm
who are excessive, just way too much for what the situation calls for, or people that they're they don't react. They just sit there. They don't do anything. But where that's coming from. It's
hmm
not unique to their personality. People tell me, "Oh, I've always been this way." No, it's trauma. Trauma that they probably don't remember, but needs to be worked through if they have the freedom to do what is genuinely being called for.
It almost covers up who they're really, their essence and who they really are in a way that they can't see themselves and others really can't see the true person,
Mhm.
like it's a veil or just a missing link, so to speak, in who they are. Yeah.
Yes, and as people become more traumatized, we become more mechanical,
Mm-hmm.
robotic, and therefore so easily replaced by AI.
Mm.
And a grown-up who's gone through all these stages of development and
Mm-hmm.
capable of using every part of themselves in the right time, place, and with the right people, there's no comparison between them and AI. They are so far beyond what artificial intelligence can do
Mm.
because they have a soul that can sense this unique moment and what it needs that's
Mm.
different than that last moment.
Yeah. Well, when you said that, I thought somebody also said people have already have robots that they're living with and communicating with, and I don't understand that part. That doesn't even seem like it'd be worthwhile.
Well,
I,
didn't
I,
you grow up with the Jetsons and various sci-fi?
yeah, I
I'm a
guess,
big Star Trek
but
fan.
it still doesn't replace a real person. Like, I guess it's very predictable, and you're gonna always get an AI type answer. I mean, don't have to. It's like communicating all day with Google or Alexa. Those we have the Hey Google, but yeah, Google Home, I guess it is. It's not a person. It's not sitting on the beach with me. You know what I mean? My phone's there, but
Mhm.
yeah, it just seems like it would. I just don't understand why somebody would want that other than they'd always get along. you know, get the answer they're looking for, right?
I guess it depends upon how the robot is programmed.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thought too. I didn't think of that.
Well, I enjoyed Data on Star Trek, but he was always aspiring to be human.
Mm,
And I love that because to me, that's true of all of us because our trauma has mechanized so many of us, or all of us in different ways,
hmm
that I'm sure there's some enlightened people out there, but most of us have had some mechanization and we need to work on becoming human. We can't just assume we're already there just because we physically are human. We have to be fully emotionally human, mentally human, relationally human.
hmm
And ultimately, to me, that's humanity seeks the divine. We seek spirituality.
hmm
That is our human nature. And to not seek it means we've lost some humanity there somehow.
Mm, yeah.
And to me, our mature humanity cares for all life. It's not a hierarchical, humans are more important because we're killing off so many species. And to me, that's an inhuman thing to do.
hmm
Species that we'll never know again. I mean, uh, species are evolving, so we're getting new species coming, but I just find that grievous.
hmm
And that's one way you know the difference between the grown-up human being and the younger stages. The younger stages are very destructive because they've been traumatized and stuck at this young age, and they have a lot of rage that comes out at the
hmm
people, places, and things.
Do you know of any tools or things where a person could take a test and see those missing stages, or would that be something that needs to be developed?
I do have a test on my website, annradelfs.com, where people can see where they are in their development.
Hmm.
So I think it's important for people to know not to be judgmental because we all have the full range inside each of us. But the main thing, again, is that we have the fluidity to hop among the different stages as needed, meaning that we need that playful child part of us to be with children and to be able to totally let loose and have fun with them. And people will say, well, why would you need an infant part? Well, to me, that's the perfect place to come from with our Creator,
Mm-hmm.
receiving wholly what He gives us and
Mm-hmm.
allowing Him to carry us through our lives.
Right. Well, yeah, and that made me think of the only fear infants, true fear we have is of like falling. Like a lot of them are just like made up, our fears. Is that true?
Well, to me, there are many fears, but falling is a big one as far as physical falling as an infant, but also falling in status.
Mm,
That's one way people stuck in young stages of development manipulate others is by demoting them if they ever step out of line, not do what they're told. And so there's a physical falling, there's a career falling, there's an emotional falling, going into all those very difficult emotions that we all have inside. If we haven't
mm-hmm,
dealt with our trauma, it's going to be emotional dealing with it. And also mental falling. A lot of people are afraid of going crazy, and
mm-hmm,
that fear becomes very prominent if they start going into their unconscious and dealing with all the enormity of things that we put there when we're young because
mm,
we can't handle them at that age.
mm-hmm,
But we reach an age where we can handle it. And I just encourage everyone to consider what might be there that is waiting for you to take it on and finally work it through. So you have that fluidity of a mature human grown up to be able to hop back and forth among all the stages that are in every single one of us as needed to meet
Hmm.
human developmental needs, rather than being stuck in a predictable behavior, being excessive with a
Hmm.
behavior or an emotion, or being minimal, like an infant just sitting there and not
Hmm.
fully participating in life.
Yeah. It reminds me of that. I've read a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by, I think it's Dr. Joseph Murphy. What's his name? Um, Great book, but it's so your subconscious is actually more powerful than your conscious because you don't have to bring it to mind to make. That's how we make decisions. Everything's based on your subconscious and what you have in there. And so, like, even watching a TV show, say you fall asleep, there was a bad scene in it, or it all goes in, no matter if you're conscious of it or not, just goes in, and then you pull from that. And how important it is not to listen to things while you're sleeping because you won't remember it consciously, but it'll be in your subconscious. And things even in your family life when you were maybe sleeping is probably more prevalent than when you were awake. And it's just pretty amazing book how that works, and a lot of it does come out in words, and you can little things you can hear yourself say that you can kind of start, do I really believe that, or is that really true? And yeah, so that I thought I'd bring that up because I really think that's a powerful thing. And our words are so important too. What words we're using will create our life by our words. So if you say you're afraid, you're going to be afraid, right? If whatever the words are, you're tired, you're going to be tired.
Well, I like honesty. I like people being real, and if they're afraid, I like them to say they are. But your
Mhm.
speaking reminded me of being at a writers' conference where one of the writers was saying, "My books are completely creative writing. They have nothing to do with me whatsoever. Nothing. Not my
Mhm.
past, not my present, nothing." And I'm listening to this thinking as if it's possible to keep yourself out of whatever you're doing. It's not. And
Mhm.
our stages of development or our stuckness or our excessiveness or our holding back are all communicating where we are right now in the various areas of life. We can't keep ourselves out of whatever we're doing,
Mm-mm.
right?
Mm-mm. No, it's kind of like you go on a trip, and then you, however you are, there you are, right? It doesn't stay back where you were, it comes with you. you know so if you're a person who doesn't have a good time, you're probably not going to have a good time, even though you go somewhere and think you're going to have a great time. There you are. I heard it, a book said once, it's a sad day when you realize the only thing that kept things from you is you. And it's so true. Like, like, and I really, what's really helped me is, who am I being? Who am I being? And really doing some self-reflection on kind of those moments that aren't so good. um there's always a gift in those moments to help us unlock part of that subconscious behavior, that or traumas, releasing them, healing them. And most people look at things that happen that aren't very good as something bad, but really, what if it's a gift to kind of get you more on your path? And it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen when things are always happy-go-lucky and easy, people that are easy to be with. It usually comes out when it's not that way. Otherwise you don't look at why am I so joyful. you know you look at, why was that so bad? you know or why was I sad, why was I angry? Those more negative emotions, but they're more on the negative side. you know that's where I think the gifts can be, like what really made me mad, if you really kind of look at it. And and not blame that, not come from being a victim, but look at it from, this is where my source of power and healing is that I can look at my part, because I played a part and it did affect me and I did get emotional, but those are key times to look at why did that happen, and really look at why did I feel that way and what was the true feeling, what's the common feeling. And several different things can happen, and you go to it's a common feeling, like not belonging or not feeling good enough. And yeah, and what if you could heal that and not experience those experiences? I found when you heal those experiences, you don't experience them anymore. You don't even really attract them. And so it's just a beautiful thing. And one thing I used to do that I found very helpful was I would distinguish, I had a feeling, mostly negative. I didn't want to feel it again. And I would just ask the question, what do I need to learn about myself so I no longer have to feel this? And something would always come to me within a few days. And it wasn't something pretty. It usually was an upset. And it's what my book's going to be about. I don't have a name for it yet, but it's all about triggers and how they come in they don't come in a pretty box with a pretty bow, but there's a gift for you in a trigger. And so we can heal our triggers, and every trigger is a sign you need healing. And so a lot of people just think I got triggered, but what about looking inside and saying, what's that about? Have I had similar experiences where I feel the same way? Like you really get to the feeling of it, not what happened, because that's always going to change. But what's that similar feeling? And I always feel that way a lot. I feel that way a lot, and then go into that feeling and really, you could do it with another person. You could do it with this soul listening that we do on Mondays. But and kind of just really take on what am I meant to learn so that I don't have to keep feeling this way. And I think that's if we ask the right questions, we do get the answers. And I was saying to a friend the other day, and I really powerfully believe this, and I'm not a spiritual guru person, but we all have equal access to God or source, or whatever you want to call God. We call God dog too, because my husband doesn't like the word God. It turns him off. And I'm like, well, what do you want to call God? So we call God dog, because dog spelled backwards God. And it's just making light of it. But it's basically, he does believe there's something else, something universal, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And but I think when we can ask the questions and get the answers. And sometimes it's about asking the right questions. You might not be on the right question. When I was sick, I was asking the wrong question. And then finally I said, found out it really was more external, not internal, it took me a while to get there, So just trust that you're going to get the answer.
As you're speaking, I'm remembering an episode of Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
where Captain Picard had a heart condition because as a young man, he got into an argument with Narsicans and they stabbed him in the heart.
Ooh.
Narsicans, another species that tends to be violent. And this is an example of when we're dealing with infants, they can get violent very quickly, psychological infants. So, anyway, he meets this omnipotent being, so to speak, in the episode where the omnipotent being shows him what his life would be like if he hadn't gotten into the argument with the Narsicans and had never been stabbed in the heart. And he was a tech,
Mm-hmm.
just a tech on the starship. And so he says to the omnipotent being, why am I just a tech rather than the captain of the starship? And the omnipotent being said, because that stabbing in the heart caused you to really grow as a human being. You couldn't stay small because you're on the line.
I
And
love that.
that's the same as what you're saying. All these difficulties, this is bad, this is horrible, are what we're needing to grow us into that captain of a starship, the master of our lives that we're meant to be as mature grown-ups.
Mm,
We need these traumas. We may not, I mean, they're miserable at the time, and I would never recommend anyone to traumatize anyone. But when we have traumas in our lives, they have a gift, like you say,
hmm
gift of growth that will raise us up into who we are born to be. If
hmm Well, not all trauma. Some traumas I think we self-inflict because our brain tells us this was bad. And
Mhm.
it was just a 3-year-old doing something that really wasn't good or bad, but we felt it was bad or we were told it was bad. And then we mentalized it into this big thing. And it's what a 3-year-old would do. It's,
Yeah,
and we're not a 3-year-old later, but we're still doing it and we're still making decisions based on that.
yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, there are traumas that can be used
Work.
constructively, and there are traumas that are just devastating to, especially when they happen when we're little. They can set us back decades.
Right. Right.
So that's the whole thing, to be able to be sensitive to the trauma that we need for growth and the trauma that no, 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 no. This is
Mhm.
not good for us or anyone.
Well, I've heard that said before where the things that happen to us is almost what drives us to do the things we do. It's really, we can use it as a launch pad to really come and do what we maybe were meant to do in the world. And because of that trauma, so there's good and bad in trauma, I suppose. Like you said, he got the heart, but then he became more of who he was meant to be because of it, and
Mhm.
like I think that's such a beautiful example of how trauma can be good in a way, and embrace it, you heal it, embrace it, and
Allow
real
it to take you
part
some,
of, pardon me.
allow it to take you somewhere developmentally.
hmm hmm
Mhm.
I think we probably as a society could look more into you know er- areas that are causing trauma that we're not really even noticing or looking at or
Mhm.
seeing that that's a traumatic thing you're going through, even though you're going to go through it, right? But what could help and what could make it the easiest on people. I don't think we give much notice to, like divorce. We don't, it's so common, but it's still traumatic, you know?
Wouldn't it be great if they taught this in schools, as far as, like a life course where this is what life is like, and this is how you deal with that trauma and this trauma, and how to support one another through these traumas, and how you can recognize unresolved trauma. I think.
hmm I know there's books now for children on feelings, which there never was before. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think they definitely it could be taught more. Embodiment could be taught more where you stay in your body. And, I think a lot of times with trauma, we kind of leave our body a little bit, we don't want to be there. So we
Yeah.
aren't really mentally there, physically, even, So, yeah, like embarrassment. I mean, as a child, I remember a lot of traumatic things for me, which, I mean, I had a pretty easy childhood, I would say, trauma wise, but embarrassment was I would say is a trauma. And then, then you end up with maybe a shy person because they're too afraid to be embarrassed again. It could be that little, like, you know, embarrassment. I mean, that's when you talk about it, it sounds little, but when you really go into it deep, it's and then it goes back to um I guess the way the brain works is like we had to be in a tribe I don't know how many long ago, but so I'm not good at that. But you know, if you got kicked out of the tribe, you were gonna die. It's important but that's why in belonging, I mean, it's not just now, it's like belonging was your life. it wasn't just a need. It was, you had, if you were out of the tribe, you're not going to make it. So we still have those in our, I guess, some way the brain works. It's still there. And it's like understanding how our brain works would probably be really helpful too.
That would be another great class in school as far as how to be in community,
Mm-hmm.
creating human community.
Mm-hmm. I would love
What
that.
you're doing, Thane,
Huh?
that's what you're doing, and I'm helping you, and we're doing it together as far as our soul first community that
Mm-hmm.
has multiple different meanings with um, meetings that have different focuses as far as your pitch night and our
Mm-hmm.
group. And I'd like to specifically invite everyone every other Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and 6 p.m. Pacific. Please come and join us because we talk about these things and we work hands on in our own lives of healing these traumatic injuries that we all have.
And I love it when we are there together and we actually do the soul listening. It's such a great experience and such a simple practice. And being witnessed just makes it, it's just better because it's always better when more than one is there, right? And
Yes.
yeah, definitely. And come if you have something that you market or sell or coaching or whatever, come to the pitch party. It's every Tuesday at 4:30 Pacific time. And yeah, let us know if you want to come because it's a great place to practice and it's safe. And a lot of times it's different every time because the energy of everybody, I guess every soul first community is always a little different too. So yeah, it's fun to get out.
And the main objective is to put the soul first because the soul for each of us knows our unique path and guides us in those baby steps or mature adult running as the need arises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great to be with you, Thane, and I'll look forward to next time.
Yes.
If you need to contact me for any reason, it is gardener of the soul at icloud.com.
Thank you.